Man, I sometimes feel like Blizzard is the gift that keeps on giving because no matter what they do, it seems like they're always getting into trouble somewhere with somebody or some group of people or upset fans or who knows what. But in the most recent news, NetEase has filed a lawsuit against Blizzard Entertainment seeking $43.5 million in refunds. Now, this stems from the cancellation of a contract. I believe I filed, or I covered a video on this a few months ago when the news first broke because NetEase like live streamed the tearing down of like the Blizzard statue in front of their buildings and like the demolishment of the offices, and it was crazy stuff that happened, but it was mostly due to just upset staff and people being upset about the contracts and all sorts of other stuff. So this is a pretty big deal, actually. They have filed this lawsuit seeking nearly 300 million won, which is 43.5 million USD, in refunds for discontinued games and services to more than 1.12 million players since the server shut down last January. Was that really last? Oh, last January. So that was, 3, 4 months ago. I was thinking last January, like a year ago. Um, as reported by Chinese media conglomerate Sina Technology, the longtime publishing partner is suing Activision Blizzard over a violation of licensing agreements, demanding compensation for refunds to players as well as unsold merchandise inventory and deposits on undeveloped games. The suit also includes what NetEase is calling unequal provisions favoring Blizzard Entertainment in the licensing agreement between the two companies, such as bet-on agreements and large sum deposits by NetEase in order to insulate Activision from risk. Now, there's a few parts of this that are really interesting. First and foremost is um, the compensation for refunds is pretty straightforward. It's the unsold merchandise inventory and deposits on undeveloped games, as well as the large sum deposits by NetEase in order to insulate Activision from risk. Those are things where it's basically in order to make Blizzard happy, NetEase went out of their way and did these things with money, and in order to secure agreements, and now they want to be compensated for those things and saying, we actually want those things refunded back to us because you decided to pull the plug despite us making all these generous offers and expenditures towards securing contracts. Let's see here. There's more information down in the press agreement, which said um, they're filing against Blizzard Entertainment for breach of series license agreement, seeking a refund of this amount. This includes full refunds paid by NetEase in connection with discontinued games such as World of Warcraft, prepayments for the inventory of unsold games. So that's NetEase pre-purchasing physical copies probably more than likely because digital copies are easy to deal with, but in this case prepaying for the inventory of unsold games suggests that this is not digital we're talking about. It's actual inventory of physical items. So they bought a bunch of stuff from Blizzard to stock, and then Blizzard pulled the contract, and they're left with all this stock that's completely worthless now because they no longer have a licensing agreement to sell those goods. So that's absolutely worthy of being compensated, of being refunded by them. Also, it says here prepayment deposits for several undeveloped games. The case also includes World of Warcraft and other CN region game-related agreements, contains a number of unequal terms and conditions in favor of Blizzard's unilateral rights, the legality and enforceability of the relevant provisions of the huge dispute. Hey everyone, Renfail here with the commercial part of the video where I say, hey, if you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And thanks to all of our supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon, our highest members, our guild champions, Crazy's Relative, Remy D here on YouTube. And don't forget, if you want to support, it's really easy. You can do the memberships below, the Adventurers Guild, 3 different tiers. There's also the super thanks on any uploaded video or YouTube short that you find. There's also, of course, the super chats and stickers that you could do on any live stream or premiere, and the Patreon page if you want to dive into the fantasy world that I have with my brother and my wife, which is a tabletop game, a point-and-click adventure game, and a fantasy book series. All are great ways to keep this channel going and me going full-time. Thanks again for those of you who support. Let's get back to the video that you're watching now. It's reported that the primary reason for NetEase to sue Blizzard is because Blizzard refused to assume the obligation of refunding players in their service and refused to pay NetEase the prepaid commission fee related to the said service refund, involving an amount of nearly 100 million RMB. Since January 14th, World of Warcraft, Hearthstone Legend, Overwatch, and other Blizzard game service shut down, in the region in order to maximize the protection of the players' rights. NetEase has already paid in full more than 1.12 million player refunds in association to Blizzard games. It also mentions the one-sided clause signed between Blizzard and NetEase, which included the requirement that NetEase deliver a massive deposit for several games in advance, while Blizzard did not refund the relevant deposit costs once those games were not developed. So this is basically them coming back and saying, hey, you know what, guys? Blizzard, you remember how they took all this money from us for the deposits for these games that they said they were developing, and then they either never delivered those games or B, canceled those games? Yeah, we want that money back now that they're pulling out of this agreement with us. That's a very interesting place to be, a very interesting statement to make, because usually when if you're funding development of something, you're expected to pay out in milestone payments against the eventual publication of something, and there are often refund deposit terms in there or kill fees and so on and so forth. And it sounds like Blizzard just pulled the plug and is trying to get away from paying any sort of fees related to anything here. So the 14-year partnership came to a sudden end last January after negotiations to renew a long-term license agreement broke down, resulting in a cessation of all Blizzard games and services in the region. There was a lengthy back and forth process following the announcement, and Activision tried to downplay the impact in their quarterly financial reports, while NetEase promised refunds and pledged to continue negotiations on behalf of their players. Warcraft General Manager John Haidt announced plans to freeze Chinese player data while the company secured a new publishing partner, but this proved difficult, as Blizzard then returned to NetEase with a 6-month extension offer a week before the expected shutdown of service. In response, NetEase, this is what happened back in January when I covered this before, they tore down their Blizzard offices and live streamed a destruction of its Gorehouse statue by handing out Blizzard green tea, a thinly veiled insult to their former partners. Since the services officially went offline on January 3rd, millions of players across Warcraft, Diablo, Hearthstone, Overwatch, StarCraft, and Heroes of the Storm have lost access to their accounts. And while some have opted to make new accounts in other regions, many have opted for refunds promised by Blizzard and paid for in advance by NetEase. And of course, this is what they want compensation for. I have to let a cat in. I'll be right back. Now, for a company like Blizzard, it might seem like water under the bridge because they've got enough money to handle something like this. But what's very interesting about this is I'm sure a lot of the items that are being brought to the table by NetEase are things that could be easily settled out of court or might hold no merit. There's always going to be an argument about clauses in a contract that are deemed one-sided by one party or the other if the party has already previously agreed to those terms. This is a perfect case of, like looking at recording artists or movie stars who are young and fresh out of their careers, young in their careers. They sign an agent with a managing partner or an agent, and they don't understand the impact of what they're getting into because they don't understand the terminology and they don't have a lawyer to look at things properly. And then 15, 20 years down the road, they look at things and go, ooh, actually, you know what? This contract was not in my best interest because this company did X, Y, and Z. Those are hard to prove because the terms were agreed to. However, I think it's a pretty clear-cut case when we're discussing the prepaid deposits and things like, hey, we have had to, our company, NetEase, has been forced to offer refunds for millions of players, refunds that Blizzard should be on the hook for because they're the ones that chose to cancel the contract, not us. On top of which, there's all this money related to undeveloped projects that we gave you deposits for that you never delivered. We feel we should be compensated for that. And there's also, I'm going to scroll down here again. The provisions I don't care much about. It's the inventory of unsold games. That's another one that should be a clear-cut case of them getting their money back. So I think, we don't know how this is going to unfold in court just yet, but I would say that they probably have a good case for a large portion of the money they're asking for. Some of the stuff might be a little more tricky to get through, given the whole we agreed to the contract, we just regretted it later on type of thing. The one-sided clauses, that's a tricky one to stick. But anything that's clearly marked in the books, I think that would be a clear win for NetEase. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues to unfold. But it's just another case of Blizzard being Blizzard, Activision, and not running their company in a way that many people would consider to be, I don't know. It's a debatable position to be in because contracts get breached all the time. But I'd say in this case, it's pretty, cut and dry that, Blizzard just wanted out and they weren't willing to hold up their end of the bargain. Again, I'm not a court of law, so any advice I'm offering here, any commentary is just my opinion. So one way or the other, love to hear your thoughts on it. Drop those comments down below. See you in the next one, everybody. Peace.